everyone.
Howdy.
I'm Mel.
I'm Chris.
And we are Limited Mobility, Unlimited Miles. So from here on out, it's kind of like just a whirlwind. You know, Chris doesn't have a great memory. Everything going on with him. At this point, my days are kind of running together because they're just a lot of the same. So we're just going to kind of tell you stories that we remember during this recovery time. And so what I'm going to tell you about today is the first time I had to get up with PT. I mentioned it last time. I said it was quite a story. It was a pretty awful day. So it happened really early on. They get people up so fast now. And I would say maybe day 2, maybe day 3. And
I told her not to be doing that.
he says I say and all the time, which I guess I do. But so it was the day. I knew they were coming to get me up, and into the room walks these 2 ladies that are just tiny. They're little, small women, and I was terrified about getting up. You know, I can't use anything on my right side. I've had surgery on my left side with my ribs, and everything just hurts. And also, when you get hurt like that, your body is working so hard to heal that you're just weak. So I was really weak. So even my limbs that were usable were weak. So they come in and they're like, we're going to get you up. And I'm arguing with them. I mean, kindly, I'm discussing with them. I'm just saying, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe with you guys doing this. I don't think you can hold me. I don't think you can do this. And they were not kind to me about it. They were, you know, I don't know if they were defensive because they felt like I was saying they couldn't do their job or what, but they were not kind. And they just kept on and kept on. And finally I gave in and was like, okay, we'll try. And so they got me over to the side of the bed, and I stood, or they tried to stand me up. So what I was supposed to do was stand up on my left leg and pivot over to the bedside commode. So like, and because it was the first time I was getting up, they were literally going to be moving me basically. Like I was going to be standing on my left leg, but they were going to be moving me over. And just like I thought, they couldn't do it. And I almost fell, and it was so scary. Like I was so scared. And so I just said no. At that point I refused. I said, no, we're not doing this. You've got to get somebody else up here, you know, whatever. So they got me back up in the bed and, you know, comfortable. And then, you know, I just was like, I waited to see what was going to happen next. And in comes these 2 giant dudes. Like they were like football players. I mean, giant arms, muscles everywhere. And when I saw them, I was like, okay, I feel safe now. I can do this. I know they're not going to drop me. I know they're not going to let me fall. So we did it. And they basically, I don't feel like I really did anything. I think they just kind of moved me. But regardless, I got to the bedside commode and did my little pee-pee. And then they put me in a recliner and got me settled, and I was supposed to sit in the recliner for a while. Well, after all that was over, it was so traumatic for me. I guess once it was all over and I had done everything, it's just like, I don't know how to explain. I don't think if you haven't ever been through a trauma like this, that you don't really understand how emotional you are. Like I was on the verge of tears all the time. And so when something like this happened, it just all spilled over and I was just bawling. And I don't really remember if I asked to see the PT supervisor or if she just knew there had been an issue and she came and talked to me. But regardless, she came in and talked to me, and she was so kind. She was so kind, and she listened to everything I said. Like I said, I'm crying my eyes out, and I just keep apologizing for crying, and you know, and she's like, no. But you know, she was just very understanding, and she listened to me, and she even told me that I needed to cry. She said, you when you are crying, that's your body letting go of stress, and you need to let that happen. It's going to help with your healing, all this stuff. Anyway, she just made me feel safe. I keep using the word safe, but I think when you're injured like that, or at least for me, I never felt safe. I was always scared, always worried. I didn't know what was going to happen. I'm scared about what's going on with Chris. So it was just a lot. And to have somebody be kind to you, and when you're feeling like that, it just means the world. Like, I can't, it makes me emotional now thinking about it, because she was there for me, and she didn't have to be. I'm sure she had 800 other things to do. So anyway, that's my story for this week.
My turn.
Pass the baton.
I don't really remember a whole lot about the first couple of months. It seems like months. I don't know how long it was actually. But I was on bed rest.
Yeah.
Bed rest while I was up in Springfield. And
the reason he was on bed rest is because of his crushed pelvis. While that was healing, they had to, he couldn't like bear weight on his legs. He could only just, like, he couldn't get up and try to walk or move or do any of that kind of stuff. He just had to be in the bed, basically, and turned.
And being on bed rest, like she just said, I couldn't move in bed. They had me wedged in with pillows, and the only way they could move me was in a Hoyer lift. And it's basically just a big frame, and it's got a round net, and they would put me in that every once in a while and set me up, and it killed me. And I was crying and carrying on and cussing people, but that's the only way they could move me around. And I remember them taking me down to x-rays and stuff on the Hoyer lift, and it hurt like hell. And finally they let me go, but they couldn't transport me, 2 hours or 2.5 hours, except for an ambulance. And so they showed up, put me on a backboard, put me in the back of the ambulance.
Mind you, he's jumping way ahead. Whenever he got moved, it had been a good 2 months before they transported you back to Fayetteville.
Yeah, but during that 2 months, I was out of it. Like when Roe versus Wade got overturned, and the gas went up like $7-8 in California. In my mind, the world was ending, and there's just all kinds of things like that happened during that 2 months. But they strapped me into the ambulance, and mind you, I'm on a backboard. They got me strapped in, tied down, couldn't move, and I had to ride for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, just strapped my head back, looking up, and every time they'd hit a bump, it hurt like hell.
I don't think you ever told me this.
Well, there's a lot of things I ain't never told you.
Hey.
And I was crying and carrying on, and they kept telling me it's going to be okay. They gave me some pain pills before I left, and it didn't help anything. But then I got to my first rehab, and I was still out of it.
I think we need to hold that story, because getting you to that rehab was a huge ordeal with insurance and all of that stuff. And so I think that's a story for another day.
Yeah. Well, on that, it was a big ordeal with the insurance, because they didn't want to pay to transfer me, and I couldn't get transferred any other way. So we'll stop there on my journey back to Fayetteville and call it a night, I guess.
Yeah. I wish I knew how long we'd been talking. Anyway, I think we'll stop, and next week we'll talk about, I'll tell about when I get discharged from, when I go to rehab, and when I get discharged home to my mom's house. And then we may get into the transfer of Chris. I'm not sure, because that really was like 2 months later, and a lot of stuff happened between, you know.
I really don't know how long I was in ICU, and the whole time I was in Springfield, I was in ICU.
He was in ICU in Springfield for 2 months, and then he transferred back here, and he was in a nursing home for 30 days, and then he was in rehab. And all of that was just a nightmare of trying to, you know.
Insurance.
Well, yeah, because insurance didn't want to pay for stuff, and like anyway, it's a whole other story. We'll tell that story next week and talk about whenever I was in rehab and all that stuff. But anyway, we don't want to draw these out too long, so we are gonna let y'all go for tonight, and we will talk again next week.
Yep.
Subscribe, like, comment. Please comment. Like I see the views that these videos get, so I know that they're being watched a little bit, but we want to hear, are you enjoying this? Do you know, do you have questions? Does anything not make sense? Like, we would love to interact and engage with you. So
like, share, subscribe, and come back next week to see us again.
Yep. Bye.
See you.